Well, hi again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder, and today is Tuesday, the 25th of February, 2025. And today, let's do the Doge on DoD's $1.8 trillion side hustle. Well, we'll learn today that the Military Retirement Fund, MRF, does not equal the Military Retirement Fund that's written into Title 10 United States Code, which is supposed to be the fund that pays retirement pay. Instead, what's happened is this thing that doesn't exist in law, called the Military Retirement Fund (MRF), has consumed the Military Retirement Fund, and it decides what of the money that was meant to be paid for retirement actually gets sent out as a check, which isn't what the law says to do, but that's what it looks like they do when you start reading what's going on. And so we're going to take a look at this. And, it's a little bit dry because you got a lot of acronyms and stuff. I'm trying to remember MRF, Fund. Let's see this thing called the MRS, the Military Retirement System, and so forth. So, we're just going to step through it and look at basically two documents, an audit from the Military Retirement Fund, MRF. Compare that to what the law says in Title 10 United States Code. I believe it's Chapter 74. That talks about the Military Retirement Fund that was created to pay the retirement. And so I am Rutluski Robert Allen, DOD, ID number 12112800006, a U.S. Army indefinite enlistee, also known as Rob Ryder. Email address is courtofrecord@AOL.com. Always the best way to get a hold of me. If you put a comment in a video, I can't respond. I've tried before, and when I do, both my reply and the question disappear. I'm on some kind of administrative lockdown by YouTube. But I mean, even my the likes on the videos, they don't show up. You can see where somebody hits a like and the numbers spin over, but they end back up where it was before. It's been going on for years, but what are you going to do? Anyways, you can find my videos on X and YouTube at Rob Ryder with 3 B's, ROBBBRYDER, and Rumble with Rob Ryder with 2 B's, ROBBRYDER. So let me show you what we're talking about here, and see if we get D.O.G.E to do some digging and find us some relief. And for this exercise, we're going to be relying on Title 10 United States Code, Chapter 74, Department of Defense Military Retirement Fund, where it says that there is established on the books of the Treasury, remember it said the Treasury now, a fund known as the Department of Defense Military Retirement Fund. That's the proper name. Okay, so this is the thing created in law, and what we're going to compare that to is this audit for fiscal year 2024 of the Military Retirement Fund audited financial report. This is done every 2 years, and I've shown this before. And, I've been complaining about this for quite some time, but I didn't really realize, well, there's actually 2 different funds being talked about at the same time. But according to this audit, if we go down here and look at Table 4, which is on the 16th page of the audit, you'll see that for fiscal year 2025, that the fund balance in billions of dollars is 1,788.8 times a billion, which is $1,788,800,000,000 of retirement pay sitting in a fund that hasn't been paid to people for retirement. Well, that seems like a little extra slush fund, doesn't it? I mean, do you really need to have almost $2 trillion? In fact, we're not far away. We'll almost make it 2026 to have $2 trillion of paid retirement pay that hasn't gone to the retiree. It's sitting in a fund, and when it sits in the fund, then they invest it, and the people that invest the money get paid a fee for investing the money, and it's good for them. It's really good. Damn fine deal. But it's not so good for people who served on active duty but didn't do 20 years active duty. Although we're still in the military, so our time is still good. And what should have happened is after 20 years, we should have been able to retire. but then not collect until age 60. And so, that's where most of this money is, I believe, is people that didn't serve 20 years to get the retirement at that age. They instead served less, and they're going to get their retirement at age 60. And so what's happening then? So we have this thing called the reporting entity, right? The reporting entity is the Department of Defense DoD Military Retirement Fund, MRF or fund. Well, right away we should say, well, there must be two different funds because you got MRF or fund, right? They're not the same thing. And we saw that in this thing here, right, that the proper name is actually the Department of Defense Military Retirement Fund. There's no DOD in the middle of the name like there is here. So this really isn't like one long name of something. This is just saying this is the Department of Defense, and the DOD has its own thing called the Military Retirement Fund. But it's not the same as the fund that's in the Treasury, which is the fund, F-U-N-D, not the MRF. Ain't that something? Okay, well, let's continue on. Then the Military Retirement System, the MRS, provides benefits for military members' retirement and so forth. And the now we go back to the MRF, accumulates funds, so it accumulates the the Treasury's fund to finance the actuarial basis liabilities for DoD, U.S. Coast Guard under military retirement survivor benefit programs. Isn't that nice? Well, the problem is that this military retirement system doesn't exist in law. You can't find anything written on it. I mean, the only thing there is, you go under military retirement system, you're going to see that it shows that there's some manuals that were put together, or reports, by the Office of the Actuary, which is the wrong name of the place that's supposed to be doing this stuff, as we'll see in a minute. So it talks about there, made some reports, but there's no manuals on it. There's nothing that shows where it was created in law or any other such thing. And this is the report we're looking at. So let's go back and look at that a little bit more. Okay, so then within the DoD, not the Treasury, operates the MRS, the Military Retirement System, overseen by, well, here's our three characters. We got Undersecretary of Defense and another Undersecretary of Defense, two different offices, and then the Defense Finance Accounting Service. Follow the money, the DFAS, where it says the DFAS is responsible for accounting, investing, payment of benefits, and reporting of the MRF. The U.S.C retains responsibility for payment of benefits. Well, we don't get. Does anybody get a retirement check from the United States Coast Guard, or do they come from the Treasury? I don't know. I don't get one. I'm just saying. This says that the Coast Guard's paying the fucking benefits. The DoD Office of Actuary, OACT, which is the improper name, within the OUSD, PR, calculates the liability funding requirements for the MRF, relying on data produced from files maintained by the Defense Manpower Data Centers. Now we got somebody else involved. So, right, the DMDC is going to tell the DFAS who to pay out of the MRF. None of that is what it said to do in the law, as we'll see in a minute. And made available to the Beacon Analytic Environment. Well, who the hell is that? Who's the Beacon Analytic Environment? I have to look that up later. The Office of Military Personnel Policy, within somebody, issues policy related to the MRS benefits. You can't find anything. There's no policy online anywhere to find. While the MRF does not have designated Chief Financial Officer, because it really doesn't exist, it's overseen by the MRF Financial Management Committee. So this committee is overseeing something that doesn't exist in law, that's consumed the fund, the FUND, Military Retirement Fund, of the Treasury, and it's deciding from that fund who to pay instead of the Treasury deciding who to pay. Something like that. So anyways, the fund, the real thing, was established by Public Law 98-94, currently Chapter 74, United States Code. Okay, that's the fund. But then we start talking about the MRF again and the OACT. The fund receives income from three sources. All right, so this is the right thing. This is the one that was created in the law. The fund receives from normal cost payments from services, U.S. Treasury, payments from the U.S. Treasury to amortize the unfunded liability and investment income. So then this talks about going back to the MRF again. We got MRF being talked about, MRS being talked about, and fund being talked about. Three different things. Well, let's look at the one that should exist. So what should have happened? All right, we're going to establish this, as we said, the fund used to accumulate funds in order to finance on actuarially sound basis liabilities, Department of Defense, under military retirement, survivor benefits. Provisions of this title create an entitlement to or determine the amount of retirement retainer pay. That's what the Military Retirement and Survivor Benefit Program does. We haven't seen that name used before. We got the MRF, the MRS, and fund, but nothing about military retirement and survivor benefit programs. Okay, and assets, the fund, this is where they're going to come from. Amounts paid in by some other section of this, some appropriated funds, and some other investments, so forth and so on. Payments from the fund. So what's going to be paid from the fund? Retirement pay payable to members of the retired list, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. Doesn't say anything in here about the Coast Guard. Right? But we got the Coast Guard in the audit, but they're not in this fund. Retire pay payable under 123 or 1223 of this title to former members of the Armed Forces, other than retire pay payable to the Secretary of Homeland Security, which I believe that's what the Coast Guard falls under, is the Secretary of Homeland Security. So how did they end up in this other fund? Or how did they end up in this? Why are we talking about the Coast Guard? Well, simply because it's not the same as this, right? There's two different things happening. Okay, the assets of the fund are hereby made available for payment under subsection A. So let it be written, so let it be done. Use this money here to pay the frickin' retirement pay from the Treasury, not from the Coast Guard. And then we come down, we find out, well, at some point we've repealed this, and that what this was had something to do with the Office of the Actuary. So they repealed it, and they replaced it with the Department of Defense Retirement Board of Actuaries. Or it used to be called just the Board of Actuaries. Gave it a new name. Okay, determination contribution fund. So they're going to decide how much goes in the fund. And if you want to read all this, it's basically coming from the D.O.G.E. The Secretary needs to decide how much is going to be necessary to pay retirement. And then they're going to pay it into the fund. The Secretary of Defense shall pay into the fund, F-U-N-D, not the MRF, at the end of each month, the Department of Defense contribution to the fund for that month, the amount that is the sum of the following. All right, it's all been laid out. This is what you guys are supposed to be doing. Amounts paid in the fund or this subsection shall be paid from funds available to the pay of members of the armed forces under the jurisdiction of Secretary of a military department. Secretary of Treasury shall promptly pay into the fund from the general fund of the Treasury the amount certified by the Secretary of Defense under paragraph 3. But the fund is in the Treasury. It's not in the D.O.G.E. Okay, Department of Defense Board of Actuaries, right? Now that's the proper name that we've come up with now. Shall determine for each armed force the amount required under this paragraph. So let's just stop for a second. Department of Defense Board of Actuaries. But that's not what we have. We have the Office of Actuaries, U.S. Department of Defense. Right? There's no retirement in there. It's supposed to have the word retirement in there. Department of Defense, this one up here. Department of Defense Retirement Board of Actuaries. So we have a place that has, nothing to do in the law with retirement, making the decision on who's going to get retirement checks. And then finally, in 1467, investment of assets of fund. The Secretary of the Treasury shall invest such portion of the fund as is not, in the judgment of the Secretary of Defense, required to meet current withdrawals. Who's supposed to do the investment? The Secretary of the Treasury. That's what the law says. What does the audit say? Well, it says that the DFAS is responsible for accounting, investing, payment of benefits, reporting of the MRF. All right, Treasury is supposed to invest the funds. Treasury is supposed to account the funds. Treasury is supposed to pay the funds. But that isn't what's happening. It's being done by the DFAS. The U.S.C, who shouldn't even be in here, retains responsibility for payment of benefits. Well, the U.S.C is under the Department of Homeland Security. They got their own deal. The D.O.G.E Office of Actuary, which doesn't exist, that's not the proper name, although that's probably closer to the name of the thing that's actually doing the deal today. All right, the D.O.G.E Office of the Actuary. Okay, if that's what you want to call it, we'll go with that. The D.O.G.E Office of Actuary. Okay, so it's the wrong place, but at least they're telling you who's doing it. Rely on data produced from files maintained by the Defense Manpower Data Center. Well, where did they come from? Who's the Defense Manpower Data Center? And what data are they giving to the place that doesn't exist to go to an account that doesn't exist in a military retirement system that doesn't exist in law to pay retirement pay? It sounds to me like it's a conspiracy. The MRF does not have a designated chief of financial officer. Well, it's because it doesn't exist and is overseen by the MRF Financial Management. Oh, so we got this committee of people who have no authority. None of these people were elected, right? So here's the bureaucracy deciding who's going to get a retirement check. And then they're going to take this and make it available to the Beacon Analytic Environment. What the heck is that? And when we go search on Beacon Analytic Environment, we see, well, there's only a couple of hits. You got the thing we're looking at, this is where it's talked about is in the Office of Actuary, right? The place that doesn't exist is talking about some Beacon Analytic Environment. Well, it doesn't really say what it is. How about analytical, since it's giving it to me? Oh. You find that Beacon Analytical Systems has something to do with the EPA. Agriculture, food, EPA, verify performance. So that can't be it. So, again, something that doesn't exist has something to do with determining who gets paid. Well, then we get to a bit of truth. The fund, right, not the MRS or the MRF, but the fund was established by public law, which is Chapter 74, Title 10. Well, we just saw that. Yeah, that's where it is. That's for sure. The fund is overseen by an independent 3-member Secretary of Defense appointed D.O.G.E Board of Actuaries board. Well, that isn't who's supposed to have anything to do with this. Because the proper name is the Department of Defense Retirement Board of Actuaries. So this fund is supposed to be overseen by the Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Auditor, right? Not by independent 3-member Secretary of Defense appointed D.O.G.E Board of Actuaries. Got nothing to do with it. So, that's really all I had to show you. It's like this is really a convoluted mess where there's $1.8 trillion sitting in an account that should have been paid to reserve retirees. Generally must be at least 60 years old, have 20 qualified years. Well, if you never are if your enlistment's never terminated, according to our agreement, we're supposed to be paid. And so if you've ever been an enlistee, you filled one of these out, one of the first pieces of paper that gets put in your file, the re-enlistment document, Armed Forces of the United States, which is the DD Form 4. And you'll see that right, so from day one, when you go in the military, your name in the military is Rytlewski, Robert Allen, or your variation of that, where last is Rytlewski, first is Robert Allen, and there is no middle. the Social Security number, DOD ID number, so forth and so on, right? Then it's got your, well, we'll look at it here in just a second. But you go down here now, so what did you just agree to, or what are you going to agree to? Well, you understand all these, that there are many laws, regulations, military customs govern my conduct, require me to do things under this agreement. The civilian does not have to do, okay? And my enlistment, re-enlistment agreement is more than an employment agreement. It affects a change in status from civilian to military member of the armed forces. As a member of the armed forces of the United States, I will be. Gives you all things you got to do. And here we go. Entitled to receive pay, allowances, and other benefits as provided by law or regulation. So as long as you're in, you got to be paid. The only thing that was just said is that it affects a change in status from civilian to military member of the armed forces. So as long as you are still in, you're a member of the armed forces. And as a member of the armed forces, you're under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, where it talks about all the people that are in here, right? The first subject of this chapter, members of the regular component of the armed forces, including those awaiting discharge after expiration of the terms of enlistment. Well, our enlistment really never ended, so we're still waiting. Volunteers from time to time of their muster or acceptance into the armed forces. Well, we're all voluntary enlistees. So it's obvious that we're still in. There's one other one I want to show here. Voluntary enlistment of any person who has the capacity to understand the significance of enlisting in the armed forces shall be valid for purposes of jurisdiction under this section. And a change of status from civilian to member of the armed forces shall be effective upon taking the oath of enlistment, which is in the DD Form 4. And so what this really means is you should not be going to civilian courts. You cannot be indicted by a grand jury. You have to be court-martialed. So I'm just telling you, if anybody has a court case and you're a veteran of some kind, you need to tell the judge, according to UCMJ, I'm still in the military and I demand trial by court-martial. What does that mean to you and me? Well, then whoever your accuser is will have to go to the military and swear to their complaint, which isn't happening now. Nobody swears to anything in this system. Nobody even uses their proper name. Right? It's all smoke and mirrors. Well, so there you go, D.O.G.E, right? The Military Retirement Fund Audited Financial Report. You have a copy. You could look at it and see, well, these people don't exist now. So I guess, and because I did it, I'm going to take the time to make a public record of it. So D.O.G.E now, right, they have a place, you have a tip, right, to send it to D.O.G.E at mail.house.gov. The problem with this is you're sending it to frickin' the false Congress. The people who didn't take the oath of office to be congressmen are the ones getting this mail. So who knows what they're going to do with it. All right, but here's what I had to say. D.O.G.E, you look at Table 4, the linked Military Retirement Fund Audited Financial Report, which we've been looking at, you'll see that in 2025, military retirement system has a big number, right? $1.8 trillion, basically. How can a fund consisting of paid but not collected military retirement pay have almost $2 trillion balance? Apparently, there's a vast network of military retirees who did not get a paycheck, like me, and the funds have been deposited for embezzlement in the MRS instead of on the books of the Treasury, as required by law. Remember, the military retirement system is supposed to be on the books of the Treasury, and the Secretary is supposed to be doing this. Be advised, the MRS is not a fund established by public law. Title 10, United States Code, name of the fund and law. The fund was created by public law, is referenced in law as, and here we go, 1461. There is established on the books of Treasury a fund to be known as the Department. Well, we read that already, right? And that the fund is to be invested by the Secretary of the Treasury. I'd say nothing about a three-man team of behind-the-scenes bureaucrats. The audit reporting entity, Department of Defense DoD Military Retirement Fund, is not the same entity as Department of Defense Military Retirement Fund, established in law. The MRF does not equal fund, but the MRF has consumed the fund to use as an investment for administrative state instead of being paid to military retirees. including indefinite enlistees such as myself and our survivors. The United States intended enlistees to have our retirement. The MRF is a fraud against the United States in violation of Article 132 of the UCMJ and 10 U.S.C. 932. Same thing for keeping it from us. All right, this is a fraud against the United States. The United States wrote in the law that we're supposed to get this, but it isn't happening. So it's a fraud against the United States, which makes it a military crime. We don't have to go to a district court or no, we could go find us a general court martial convening authority, and he could issue a order for a preliminary investigation under Article 132. So, the answer's there, what needs to happen. What we need is a military order. We need somebody to go and investigate, or we need DOGE to do it. But somebody has to go take a look-see at this because, there's $1.8 trillion. It's a side hustle. And somebody's getting filthy rich off of it. And the retirees who should have it aren't getting it. So I'm going to leave it there, DOGE. Do the right thing. Okay, y'all have a great day. Hope you found it useful and interesting at least. And we'll see what happens next. See you now.